All right, good morning. Good morning. I'm walking away from this. I forgot. Let's do some introductions. I'm Alice Hara. I'm director of the Center for Life Beyond Read. I've been at Read 10 years. The Center for Life Beyond Read, for those of you who want to know, is career advising, graduate school advising, and national fellowships advising. And I'm very fortunate to be joined by two amazing peer career advisors who will introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Robin. I'm an environmental studies chemistry senior, and I've been a PCA for just over a year now.
Hello, I'm Mira. I'm double majoring in English, literature, and psychology. I'm a junior, and I've been a PCA for about a year now as well.
And Robin and Mira are going to help us do our tabletop. I would like for you to do some introductions to each other. So if there's somebody at your table that you don't know, I'd like you to introduce you, or somebody at a table right next to you. Please do your introductions. Nice. Okay, nice job on the introductions. Can I have hands for first-year parents? First-year parents? First-year parents? Sophomore parents? Junior parents? Senior parents? Welcome. It's great to see you all. Yeah, applause to the senior parents. Well, that's great, because we have a little something for everybody today. So we're going to do three specific things during this 45-minute time period that we have together. I'm going to do the equivalent of a TED Talk. I haven't actually done it as a TED Talk, but if anybody's associated with TED Talk, I do want to do it, on Read's unique model of advising. So I'll do about 12 minutes on that. Then we're going to spend about 15 to 20 minutes in a small group exercise. I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's a question that parents often ask, which is, how do I talk to my students about careers, about what happens after Read? And so we're actually going to do a little exercise, and Robin and Mira are going to help me teach you all a quick answer to that. And then we'll spend time. I'd really love to know what's on your mind. So we'll save about 10 minutes at the end, hopefully, for Q&A. So let's talk about what's different about Read's model. So when I started 10 years ago at Read, career centers were across the country were aligned and organized around students having to have the answer to the question, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And that's how you accessed advising and resources. And when I came to Read, at such an intellectual place, your students are incredibly intellectual, very academic. They typically come without a pre-professional idea, although if we do professional advising, pre-professional advising as well. But I thought, what would really animate a Read student? What would be unique to Read? And that's where we start with why. We start with what we call communities of purpose. We think about work as a series of issues to solve, or problems. You all know that, you work. That's what we call work, rather than an industry or a sector or a title. And so we began to evolve this model that starts with why. Before you know what you want to do, you need to know why you want to do it. And so that's where the model starts. Our advising team is aligned by communities of purpose. So a student can tell you whether they're interested in sustainable life on Earth, or the care and cure of illness, or art and beauty in the world, or investing in financial responsibility. These are areas that they understand. And so that's how we're organized. We're an integrated model. We are the only ones in the country that have attempted to do this. We do career advising, graduate school advising, and national fellowships advising. And what happens for us in that integrated model is that students don't have to artificially bifurcate those post-bac decisions. They don't have to think, should I go to grad school or work? A national fellowship or graduate school? It's all of those things. We want every Read student, every senior, to graduate knowing how to apply to a job, apply to a graduate school, and apply to a national fellowship, because they will weave those things throughout their post-bac life. And finally, we're major agnostic. So a lot of career centers at the time, I meant to tell you, the integrated model, most career centers are singular. The graduate school advising happens in a graduate school, and the fellowships advising happens in an academic program. So students have to access often 3 different departments. It's integrated within, not only within my department, within each advisor. Major agnostic means that choosing a major is an academic choice, and they work with their faculty. Faculty are the academic advisors here. But it's not necessarily a vocational choice. And one of the coolest things about Reed is that 63% of our alumni self-report that they are not working in a field that is necessarily related to their major. So a linguistics major goes and works in tech, very valuable. Sociology and anthropology, super valuable right now in finance. And so I want to make sure that sort of when we don't organize ourselves around major, a lot of institutions do. The Career Center is basically in the College of Social Work, College of Journalism, College of Engineering. So those are 3 things that are different. Why it matters. It's developmentally inappropriate to ask students from first year to senior, what is it you want to do, particularly for the rest of your life? They haven't been out in the work world. They don't know the titles and the types of things that are happening. And so it's developmentally appropriate to start with what they already know. They don't know their what, but they do know their why. Robin and Mira work with first-year students, and I can tell you, they do know if they are interested in sustainable life on Earth and technology and innovation. They do know what they're interested in. They just don't know what it's going to be. So we start right there. What I really love about our integrated model, so why it matters, is it introduces Reedies to post-bac opportunities and alumni that they wouldn't have known to come ask for. So if a sophomore comes to us interested in an internship this summer, but we recognize that this could be a particularly good candidate for the critical language scholarship out of the Department of State, we can introduce that to them. Not every family has 2 parents working at Goldman Sachs and they both want a Fulbright. And so we're able to introduce national fellowships to students who may not have even heard of a Watson. We can begin to identify which students. So that's really important. The last thing is it just teaches lifelong skills. How many of you have had one job your whole life? Cool. I like it. Rare. And so there's a lifelong skill that happens. You're going to have to do this over and over again. And so we want to teach them a framework that they will use for the rest of their lives in evaluating how they move through graduate school or through their career. Also, we're teaching them the lifelong skill of writing for competitive funding because National Fellowship sits with us. And so we scaffold a model where they can start with a career advancement fund at somewhere around $500, maybe their first year. Their second year, we would encourage them to then write for a $5,000 summer internship award. And their third year, junior year, we'd encourage them to write for a $10,000 Project for Peace. And their final year, we're going to encourage them to write for a $40,000 Watson. So we've taught them along the way how to do these lifelong skills. Here's why it works. It meets them where they are. These are our operating principles. It meets them where they are. So not only do Robin and Mira and the peer career advising team do advising every evening in the first-year dorm and the dorms that are mostly the first and second-year students, every night of the week, they're there from 6 to 8 p.m. extending our work, so they're actually in the residence hall with the students. But we also meet them where they are. You know, sometimes often seniors are still searching. That's okay, that's normal. We help them wherever they are. If we're starting from ground zero, our first-year student comes in, guns a-blazing, wanting to do a particular pre-professional program. Wherever they are, we can meet their needs. This connects the dots for them. Again, I talked about, which do I do? Graduate school, a fellowship, how do I step out of here? And we can help connect the dots, not only between those 3 things and lay out a plan with them, but even between their major and their interests. And so that's one of the things we do. This is a really important equity practice for us, the integrated model, so that we are introducing to students things they might not have ever heard. Another equity practice that we have is the ability to meet with you'll see in a moment, with every sophomore. So in the Reed model, this is how it works. We think about our first-year students, most of you are here, our beloved peer career advisors who will be circulating with you if you have questions for them. They do nightly drop-ins in the residence hall. We have a career advancement fund that's open from the first week a first-year student gets here to explore anything that's connected to careers, up to $500. In orientation, we're very present to talk to the students about, we're not about your life beyond Reed, we're about helping you get a campus job. So how do you practice for an interview? How do you write a resume? How do you write a cover letter and apply? Students can also, recently passed by the faculty, this is experiential learning, Excel credit. They can substitute a PE credit for a non-academic credit by doing a project or an internship through the center. So those are some of the ways we work with first years. We also work with them on their sense of belonging. I think that's really important to the peer career advisors. Sophomores, we are committed to meeting with 100% of sophomores. We piloted it last year. We did 62%. So I think we're on track this year. We've already done enough on the metrics that I think we'll hit our commitment this year. One of the reasons we can do that is we have the Tom Daniel, who, by the way, I just thought of this. He's a parent, and he gave a very generous donation to run a just exclusively sophomore exploration fund. And so we can draw the sophomores in, talk to them about how are you going to spend your fund, and that's one of the ways we work with sophomores. Juniors, we want them very much doing research, internships, travel. There's funding for all of those things. And certainly we want to do, or we do as a team, develop departmental programming. So this is where, as you know, there's junior quals for each of the departments. So they're often junior meetings. And so we might go, say, for example, to the religion department and say, this is an example of all the things religion majors can do. So we also go into their departments and meet them where they are with their majors. Seniors. We are the Office, as I said, of National Fellowships. 10% of our seniors applied to a Fulbright this year. That we broke all the records of our own, and we were very delighted for that. So we do senior drop-in in the spring on every Friday afternoon, where seniors, no matter what they're working on, grad school application, grad school will be over. They'd be working on, a career application or any kind of application. They can just drop in, and our advisors are just ready for them in our office. We have funding for them to do, we'd like for them to do academic and professional conferences to learn networking. And so we meet with them ahead of time and talk through. In fact, I have 5 students right now down at UC Davis today doing a pre-health conference. We met with them ahead of time. We walked through the agenda. We had them identify where they're going and 3 people that they would network with. And so that's the way we prepare them for sort of that experience in life. We're here for life, for our recent grads, for our seniors, for our Reed alums, in the following way. Career advising until they have made their first professional destination. And that could be it could be before they graduate, or it could be 3 years later. It doesn't matter to us. We want to see them make their first professional destination. After that, we're available to them for the rest of their lives, for graduate school, for medical school, for law school, for MBA advising, for national fellowships advising. You can earn a Fulbright up until you're 80. And when the alumni reach a second, third, or fourth professional destination, at that point we turn them over to the Alumni Coaches Program for continued support. How well it works. It works really well. So currently, class of 23 and our current surveying of the class of 24, we're at 92% successful first destination, and that means that the student reports that they are satisfied with where they are. So it still could be a part-time or full-time administrative job that they're just doing until they get into the graduate school cycle, but they are satisfied with where they are. So that's this is the gold standard of small liberal arts colleges. It's usually 92, 93%. We gather data on the national colleges and employers, the NACE guidelines. Where do they go? I made a little note to myself to make sure I told you that. So when we see our recent grads, they're doing a couple of things. They're becoming analysts. Typically, these are sort of the 3 biggest buckets that I see them going into. They become analysts, either economic analysts, data analysts, or business analysts. They do a lot of research. So research is the second bucket. You see a lot of research assistants or assistants to assistant editor, assistant sort of variety of assistant directors, things like that. They do go into administrative coordination often if they're going into nonprofits. It's the entry-level place they go, or in operations. The primary areas that they're interested in tend to be tech, policy, and research. So those are our areas. The college scorecard recently upgraded us significantly to above-average salaries when we challenged them. And when seniors leave, that first destination survey that I mentioned, that senior survey, 85% of them indicate they have engaged with the Center for Life and Read at some point during their time here. So we think the model works. We're on the national stage talking about our models for over the last 10 years, and we really love when our colleagues, this was Rutgers last week. Thank you. My team goes out on the national circuit a lot talking about the communities of purpose model. So Rutgers was interested, and it's one of the many that talked to us. So I hope at this point my goal was to give you all the confidence that we have a model that works here. It's unique and fits your read-like. It's very read-like. It fits your students. And that was this part of it. Now I want to talk about you. I think you're interested in how do you help your students and how do you talk about careers and what's coming after Reed with them or even what's going on with them at Reed. So we're going to do a table activity where you're going to identify your communities of purpose and you're going to create a statement of purpose because that's what we would do with the students. So here's how it looks. A statement of purpose. Why we do this, and it's coming up on holiday time, your students come home and their grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and friends and the holiday parties, and everybody's like, what are you going to do with that liberal arts major? What are you going to do with that English major? You going to teach? What are you going to do with that philosophy major? Live in your parents' basement? And we're really trying to shift the narrative around the value of the liberal arts in the 21st century. And one of the ways you do that is by giving students a little bit of protection, frankly, and an honest and authentic answer. And it sounds like something like, I'm interested in the intersection of the care and cure of illness and technology and innovation. And I'm curious how to use my strengths in data analytics and research to solve issues in that. So I would love for Robin and Mira to do theirs.
I'm Robin, again. And I am interested in the intersection of research and innovation and sustainable life on Earth. And I use my technical skills like RStudio and ArcGIS and fieldwork experience, in addition with my interdisciplinary experience at Reed to solve environmental issues.
Hi, I'm Mira. I'm interested in the intersection between human potential and success along with innovation and research, and I use my skills such as writing, public speaking, mentorship, presentation skills, along with fieldwork, critical thinking, problem solving, and healthcare education in order to hopefully better the world in the field of education psychology.
And I'm interested in the intersection of human potential and success along with art and beauty in the world. And I use my strengths as a design thinker and a connector and a communicator in this area. Two things. One is you could hear from the students what it sounded like. And that's the way, one of the things I love to talk about is networking. That's the way that if a student says, I don't really know what I'm going to do, no one knows what to do with them. But if they answer like that, you may say, oh my gosh, Aunt so-and-so works with, child care and so-and-so works with technology and sustainability. And so that you've given them a chance to open a conversation. You've also given them a chance to give an answer. The second reason is I've been the senior editor at a major higher ed publisher. I've been the director of employer recruiting at Northwestern University, and I've been associate dean of students at Reed College. And my statement of purpose fits all three of those. So students don't know what they're going to do, but when they have this line, it becomes a through line for their lives. So now, in order for you to teach that, we thought it'd be great if you teach it to your students too, or then you're going to have to do it yourselves. So here's the activity. We're going to take about 15 minutes, and I want you to look at the issues. It's very quick. It takes you about 30 seconds to look at the issues in the communities, each of the communities. And I want you to think about the questions that we ask students. What lights you up? Where are you leaning in? What are you talking to your friends about or your colleagues about? In your case, what are you solving at work? Which 2 or 3 communities are your strongest? And then I would like you to make your own statement of purpose and share it. I'm interested in the intersection of these 2 things, and I use my strengths of these 2 things to solve issues. And finally, I'd like you as parents to talk about how, when, and where you might share this exercise with your students and talk to them about your why so that you can learn their why and encourage them to discuss that. And remember, this is not a major choice. So these are the directions. We'll leave them up here. We're at 11:35. We'll do about 15 minutes, and then we'll close with a little Q&A. Oh, Robin, Mira, and I will be walking around to help. Do you feel purposeful? purpose-filled. So we're going to wind down our time. We have about 12 minutes. We'd love to have your questions. Robin, Mira, and I are here to answer questions about whether it's this model or the work we do or anything about Reed. They're happy to share their experiences. I will say one thing, this is connection to Handshake. When I got here, we had 4 or 5 different ways for students to find things: campus jobs, internships, graduate school. This is how students, this is a one-stop shop for everything, including events, appointments. What do you use Handshake for?
Searching for jobs.
Searching for jobs, all the internships are there. So this is how students get connected. Okay, we're here for you. What's on your mind? Yes.
They get credit for something by doing participation. Is that some sort of thing?
Yeah.
So what, can you talk about
I'd be
that?
happy to. I will take the mic. Do you all talk much about Excel? It's pretty new. Oh. What are you talking about? Lost our minds.
So I've actually used the Excel credit program. Not my first engagement, but my first experience with CLBR was the Social Change Leadership Program when I was a sophomore. And that actually counted as Excel credit, and it was a program where the year before a curriculum had been developed to work on sophomore engagement. And so there were 2 groups of us, and we each worked with an employer, and we developed diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions for that employer. And then with the Excel credit program, basically I just had to say, I'm doing this experience, and it counts for Excel credit, and I didn't have to do one of my PE credits. And instead I was able to participate in this leadership program.
So the Excel credit is experiential learning, and they apply through the Center for Life Beyond Reed, and we're happy to walk your students through it. They tend to be able to do it their first and second year because they've generally fulfilled their PE requirements by year 3 or 4. But if they haven't, they can come to us, and it's up to 10 hours of working with an employer on a project. What else is on your mind? Yes, and then yes.
How important summer experiences are versus working at the local coffee shop, and in terms of like what year is important right after freshman year to get started in internships, and second, for those that don't live in the area or that their home is somewhere else,
Sure.
what kind of resources do we have for
Yeah.
students to find those kinds of internships if it's important to get them early?
Yeah, I'm going to answer from top level, a director level, and then I'd love you all to talk about what you did in the summer. Summers are incredibly important, you all. So here's what I always say at Center for Life Beyond Reed. We are at a very, I'm going to say it again, very intellectual, very academic program. It is an uphill bicycle ride from the minute you arrive all the way to your senior year. A lot of schools taper off so you can get these internships and do these things. So I, as the director, think that we program into 3 summers and 4 winter breaks. They're very important for your student to think about extending their education through that time. That can mean an internship. It can also mean they can just sit and read novels. We're also really clear that they have a very rigorous program here. We have summer internship award funding that they can get if they go into the nonprofit fields where they're typically unpaid or underpaid. So that would be journalism, education, social work, the arts, government, the other one. So we do have some funding for the summer, but we just, psychologically, we want them, and when we meet with them, we're helping them plan into whatever the next break is. Make their plan is really important. So even if it's just, this summer, I'm a first-year student. It's in between my first and second year. I'm going to go meet 3 alums, and we talk to them about how to make that networking connection. But I always tell students, employers want to hire interesting people. Go do something interesting. So what are you doing this summer?
My summer of freshman year, I applied for funding to do research for the English department. I got 2 grants, and that allowed me to go to England and study Jewish stereotypes in English literature. And my past summer, I got a grant to go to India and study how the caste system has impacted English language through colonialism. So my summers, I was really, really lucky when I got in. I was able to get an appointment with CLBR, and it took my interest in like research and writing. Was like, how do we funnel this? And talking to professors really helped. And I was able to apply for these grants and get it and work on research over the summer. So what I did wasn't an internship, but it really helped me sediment my love for research and love for writing. If I want to go into the field of academia, I think I have a footing. And professors are really good sending out mails to students. Usually students are on the department mailing list. They send out opportunities that are happening. Currently I'm applying to work at the University of Madison over the summer for the psychology department. So professors send out resources, CLBR sends out resources through the mailing list about the grants that are coming up. So students know what's happening and they can apply for it if they're interested in it. And it's really helpful. Can you just tell them what CLBR is? Center of Life Beyond Read. That's us. That's us. Okay.
I also did research this summer. I did part-time research in the chemistry department, so I went out and took soil samples and I did a bunch of analysis. It was super fun, and that was at Reed. So I just applied through the department. I didn't even get any of the funding that I applied for. I applied for 2 or 3 different funding opportunities and didn't get any of them. And I went to my advisor and I said, hey, I would love to work in your lab this summer. Is there any chance that I could work? Part-time, I don't need to get paid, I just want the experience, and she ended up being able to get me funding. So tell your students it's always worth asking. And I also like to tell students, like, it's great to apply for internships and research and think about your career during the summer, but also if that doesn't happen, that's not the worst thing in the world. It's useful to diversify your experience, it's useful to take a break. Whatever you're doing is going to be useful to you.
I also have students come up and say, well, I worked at a coffee shop over the summer. What does that count for? I'm like, well, you have customer service skills. You have time management skills. You have problem-solving skills. You're bringing skills that can be used to get you a job in the future. It doesn't always have to be related to academia. A lot of jobs, you need to be able to talk to people. You need to be able to have time management. So your opportunities of the summer, even though they're not academically related, it can be turned into something that you could use to get a job.
And finally, the Center for Life Beyond Read, or CLBR, as they're referring to, we can help students think about the summer you're exactly right, in maybe an academic way, a non-academic way, or even a creative way. We have a President's Summer Fellowship that even first-year students can apply for that's creative, intellectual, and so it has nothing to do with careers and nothing to do with academics. It's just go travel and write poetry in the desert. So that was one of them that won. So there's just a range of funding, and it's our job as professional advisors and their job as peer career advisors to be sure that we're putting into asking those questions with every student. What are you thinking about this summer? Let's make a plan. So thank you for that. Did I answer your question? Yeah. And it was somebody back there, and then you? Yep.
Thank you. So my question is around the 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. kind of availability in the dorms. And so I, like many here, I have first year, incredibly introverted, familiar story probably to a lot of us, right? Doesn't want to ask questions because it says, I don't know what to ask, so why would I ask it? And so, what is your process of engaging, how does the 6 to 8 p.m. work? You're in a dorm. Like, what are you doing? Are you in a kitchen? How do we get our students to sort of like, go up and introduce yourselves, just start a conversation? Just really curious about that.
I do dropping in a dorm. I do it in Trillium, one of the biggest freshman dorms on campus. I sit in the classroom, and if there are people hanging outside, I usually go out and I walk and I see someone looks at the side. I'm like, hey, I'm Mira. How's your day going? Are you interested in career advising? They ask I usually start being like, how's your day? How are you doing? What classes are you in? And try to get what they're interested in and answer questions about Center of Life Beyond Read. And I address them as a person first before as, oh, you're coming in to get advice from me. I always want to know, what's your favorite class? How is Humanities 110 going? Are you liking your lectures at 9 a.m.? Get to know them as a person before I'm like, oh, let me look at your resume. And I'm like, oh, I see that you're interested in creative writing. Have you checked out this club that's on campus? I want to know you as who you are as a person before I can advise you. And I don't think personally I can advise a student if I don't know what their interests are, what you like to do, what are your passions outside you coming to me as someone who wants career advice. Yeah, I love getting to know freshmen. They're so fun. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So we also do each have a cohort of freshmen. There are 4 of us PCAs this year, and we each have a cohort of freshmen that we're assigned to. So sometimes we'll send out emails that are, hey, I just want to introduce myself. Come to my drop-in hours. So I have drop-in in Prexy, which is the home of the Center for Life Beyond Read, but I've also had drop-in in Aspen, which is sometimes a first year, sometimes a sophomore dorm. And what we're trying this year is we're trying to get into the freshman dorms. We're trying to be in an accessible place because we hear that being far away, being on the other side of campus, nobody wants to walk across campus at night in the dark, in the rain. So our goal is to be accessible. Our goal is to be approachable. We have another PCA who's in NATO, which is another freshman dorm, and he sits in the common room, and he has a sign that says, I'm a PCA, and it has his hours and what he does. And we're hoping that we can kind of normalize peer career advisors being in the dorms. We can normalize having those conversations and kind of take some of the stress and intimidation off. Because really, it is helpful when students come to us and know what they have a question about, but they can also come to us not knowing anything. They can ask us, what is the Center for Life Beyond Read? We have an answer. They can ask us, why am I here? What can you help me with? And we have an answer.
We also have, you can also book us on Handshake as well. You have an option to book a peer career advisor appointment apart from 6 to 8 p.m. We usually have appointments during the day. This year it's from like Monday to Saturday. Monday to Saturday. And you can come and like talk to us. Some of my favorite questions is when I have freshmen ask me, what is a resume? What is a CV? How do I have an interview? Because then you pull out from them what they want to do, and then you start directing them. You're like, hey, have you checked out this opportunity? Or have you looked into this grant?
Yeah, that's a perfect answer. And for the others, we talked about meeting them where they are. So you can see why freshmen would be really interested in meeting them instead of coming to talk to a professional advisor. But we're also in Commons 2 days a week. The professional advisors are in Commons 2 days a week from 11 to 2, or 11 to 1. And the students, we're also in the Multicultural Resource Center and in the International Student Office too. So you had a question, and then I think that's our final question. You there? You're like, I have to come up with a question?
I'm the parent of a junior, and as far as I know, he has not had any contact with the Center for Life Beyond Read. He certainly knows that you're around, but whenever I ask him about it, it's like, oh, I don't have time this week, I've got a midterm coming up, I've got a paper to write. How do I support a student who seems to feel that he does not have the time to come in, even though he acknowledges that it would be a good thing to look into? It's never the priority.
Yeah, I think that's, Reed is a very difficult place where they are. That's very legitimate that they're full-time. So a couple things. I would say, tell them you went to this session and that you know that the advisors are in Commons during the day. We're there during lunchtime, so they can stop and ask a question. I would lean towards, do you want to find some funding for something, even if you don't know? The third thing I'd say is tell them you don't have to know the answers to any questions that you don't know the answers to go see the center. We're very, very good at starting from zero. Like, I have no idea is our favorite line. We're like, great, we'll start. And finally, do this exercise with them. Talk to them about their why. Talk to them about your why. Talk to them about your job search and your purpose, and then start that conversation with them through that angle. So those are some of the things I would recommend. I think we're at time. Is there time for one? Also send me his name. No, just kidding. Do we have one more question? Oh, we're right at time. Sorry, I thought there was one.
This is a very informed question because I don't even quite know what the fact of it is, but is there something about $500 for freshmen? Is that something that was said?
We'll close on that. Tell them the career advisor. The Advancement Fund, the Career Advancement Fund is a fund that every semester, every student at Reed has $500. And you can apply for this fund any time of the year. It can be for clothes for an interview. It could be to travel to a conference. It could also be in conjunction with another grant you're applying for. It helps students get opportunities. Sometimes you need clothes for an interview. Sometimes you need to travel to a conference. And you can apply for this funding through CLBR, and you could possibly get the money. And it's $500 every semester. Up to.
So the average gift is about $410. We're delighted to buy things like farm boots so a student can do an internship at Zinger Farms, to a lab coat, to, as you said, a first professional. We buy so many first professional outfits for students, and so that's one of the things we're committed to doing. The student just has to come to us, apply by Sunday night. Every Monday morning my team makes the decisions. It's like Christmas every Monday. So I thank you. I hope this was enjoyable. I hope you got a lot out of it. I'll stick around if you have questions. I hope you have a fabulous weekend with your students, and thank you for entrusting them with us here at Reed. We love them. Bye.